Welcome back to our channel. With Peach's return, is she still hiding secrets from her daughter, Leslie? Leslie is living a lavish life in Beyond the Gates. Thanks to Peaches, Leslie learned she is the biological daughter of the late Barbara Mitchell and the beneficiary of a trust fund established by Anita. However, Leslie's good fortune may collapse because of another secret Peaches is keeping. According to fans, that's exactly what's happening. Peaches is Leslie's adoptive mother. Leslie is the daughter of the late Articulate's founder, Barbara Mitchell. Barbara's old friend and fellow Articulate's member, Anita, created a trust for Barbara's family after her death. As Barbara's kin, Leslie is set to receive that money. Leslie's life had once moved along tracks she thought she controlled, a cold, straight line toward victory, toward the belated recognition she was determined to seize at any cost, until Peach's confession smashed the entire architecture of confidence she had spent half a lifetime building. Peach's claim to be her adoptive mother was only the ugly tip of an iceberg. Its submerged mass was the name Barbara Mitchell lurching up from the shadows of the past like a persistent haunting, both a support and a blade pointed at everything Leslie currently enjoys. If Barbara is truly not dead, if the woman standing before her is a master illusionist perfectly hidden behind the shell of Peaches, then every dollar in the trust Anita set up, every benefit Leslie now lives on under the label Barbara's relative, will instantly become evidence against her, dragging her, and the entire Dupree family, into a whirlpool of law, morality, and revenge. More precisely, it will be a delicate surgery on everyone's conscience, and Leslie realizes she is no longer the hand holding the scalpel. She is the body lying on the operating table, and Leslie's mind. Two contradictory scenarios overlap like warped musical tracks. If Peaches is Barbara, why did she fake her death? Who orchestrated the years-long chain of lies, and why reveal herself now? But if Peaches is not Barbara and merely a desperate impersonator, or a trusted assistant, even a sister in arms who endured Barbara's rise and fall, then what is she demanding, and how did she obtain the fragments that so violently shake Leslie's understanding? Every answer carries betrayal, and every betrayal unlocks smoldering furnaces inside Leslie, where pride clings to the illusion of control while anxiety silently counts down the seconds, prodding her to choose. She knows a tilt in either direction would push her into a war with no retreat. Either join Peaches to topple the Duprees, or defy Peaches to save the outward stability that is in truth a pleasant trap someone else strung for her. Peaches neither threatens nor begs, yet the woman's quiet is the subtlest form of violence. From her economical posture to the meticulous placement of details, everything signals that Leslie is out of time. On long nights, Leslie scours traces strewn along the border between legend and fact. A blurred photo in the Articulate's dressing room where a woman's face is half-cropped but her hands are unmistakably Barbara's. A copy of the old contract between the group and Dante Green with Barbara's signature crossed out. A hurried note beneath it like an order to assassinate someone's honor. A yellowed envelope labeled, "Do not open until you're ready." Forgotten in the trunk Peaches carried. Each piece of evidence opens a new universe of motives. Barbara expelled from the group over creative differences with Anita and Dante, the humiliation swallowing her whole. Anita, out of guilt, establishing the trust as a redemption that is both beautiful and cruel. Dante, the murky manager, exploiting everything to propel the Articulates to a peak missing a piece of its soul. And Leslie, a living relic of the woman shoved aside, becomes the pivot of a revenge she never asked to anchor. Anita senses the darkness rolling back toward her. Every time she hears Barbara's name, her breathing stutters like someone fleeing yet forced to smile for the camera. She knows the trust she created is Leslie's lifeline, but also a legal doorway anyone skilled in the law can twist into a noose. If Barbara is alive and has quietly gathered evidence, a lawsuit over identity or a fraudulent corpse, or even a simple audit request, could be enough to set everything ablaze. Anita's deepest dread is not losing her reputation. It is facing a founding member she bulldozed out in the name of artistic vision. Inside, Anita repeats a poisonous question. Does she want to save the group or save the truth? protect the legacy or secure a fair ending. And in every scenario, the first person driven into a corner remains Leslie, a daughter living off the shadow of her real mother. That fear makes Anita act like anyone powerful at the edge of panic. Discreetly calling lawyers, discreetly reviewing transfers, discreetly sending someone to recheck the old death certificate to ensure every seal still holds. But each attempt to reinforce the past only makes the present bleed faster. Dante Green smells blackmail on the wind. He understands a name like Barbara doesn't vanish without cause. And if it returns wearing Peach's face, someone has mapped the path for years. With the cunning of a tailor who hems truth to fit the trouser leg of fame, Dante probes the weakest links. The forensics on the day Barbara killed herself, the funeral home employee who rushed a signature, the refrigerated truck that moved at an odd hour, a second-tier witness paid to remember nothing. He wants to buy more silence, but the deeper he digs into the chain, the clearer the unofficial copies that may already be in Peach's hands. He also knows if Anita collapses, he'll be dragged down as an accessory laid bare. And if Peach's is Barbara, every calculating letter, every percentage sheet earned off an artist's back will turn him into the perfect tool for a smear trial, perhaps even a criminal verdict. Dante's fear has no moral shape. It wears the shape of numbers, contracts, advances. He begins planning to push Leslie into the role of the one who must account for everything, because attacking the daughter is the cheapest way to flush the mother into the open. Nicole watches the escalation in the piercing quiet of someone who once believed in marriage and saw it crushed. Leslie once wrecked her life, and now Leslie teeters on a fresh brink where every footfall has an audience waiting for the crash. Nicole knows crowd psychology. On X, the script of Schadenfreude is already written, sketching Leslie as a schemer who deserves the fall and casting Peaches as the avenger of the past. But Nicole also grasps what the crowd does not. When women are ground down long enough, they learn to wield pain like a pliant blade, and that blade can slice the future into strips without ever swinging hard. The urge to see Leslie collapse is braided with a hollow unease because she knows if Leslie goes down, the Duprees won't stand either, and the consequences will outrun anyone's math to the shattered center of the tableau. Leslie sees clearly, for the first time, something she used to scorn, the fragility of lineage. She begins to examine her life through the lens of others' motives. She has ridden the trust like a pawn kept fueled, using it to open doors long shut, chalking up a victory over the Duprees as a taunt. She believed victory was a skill, but now she sees victory as a structure, and structures crumble when the foundation of identity is reset. The idea of joining Peaches to exact revenge strides temptingly through her mind, because the hunger to make Anita face the past is real and burning. Yet another vision hovers. If Peaches is merely using her as tinder to torch the temple, where will Leslie go when the ash settles? How will she live when the legal and social doors swing back and slam, forcing her to repay every benefit, even hold her liable for profiting from a death suspected of fraud? Her inner compass is a tangle. She needs an incontrovertible truth, and truth will come from the one thing that cannot stay hidden long: biological traces. A worn comb of Peaches remained on Leslie's vanity after a visit, a few hairs caught between the teeth like dried lines of script. Leslie took it to a private lab through a contact, requesting a comparison with hair saved from Barbara's keepsakes, the talisman she had clutched for years. The act was more than scientific. It was a leap from quicksand, a willingness to accept any verdict so long as it spoke the language of truth. The waiting days became a kiln, melting every feeling. Each alert on X about a new theory, every analysis of Barbara lives, sliced across the thin garment of self-soothing she had stitched for herself. Meanwhile, Anita's lawyers sent a curious settlement proposal: a temporary freeze on trust disbursements, creation of an independent committee to review sources of funds, opening the Articulate's archives for an honor audit. An offer that sounded polite but was in fact multi-layered defense. So if Leslie chose Peach's side, her finances would be cut off at once. Leslie felt shoved to a crossroads where each path was strewn with nails, Peaches, like a mirrored specter, moves through the city's light and shadow with the poise of someone who knows time favors her. If she is Barbara, the clues have been placed to pop open now. If she is not, she still holds the strongest card, the power to assign meaning to a chaotic past and inject it into the public's heart. She appears rarely in noisy places but often at fulcrums. The hospital records office, the cemetery wall that was once repaired, the old home of Barbara's assistant where an elderly neighbor swears he saw a veiled woman coming and going at night. Peaches doesn't need to declare anything. She spreads a field that makes others assemble the puzzle themselves. And in every picture formed, Anita is the turncoat, Dante the leech, and Leslie the living will of a debt unpaid. If the aim is vengeance, the plan is advancing. If the aim is to protect her daughter, that protection means placing the girl dead center in the storm so the wind shreds every false layer of ambition and forces her to grow by choosing a side. As the test results near, each player reaches the point where anger no longer makes sound but contracts into a hard core. Anita stands in an empty conference room, staring at Golden Age photos of the articulates where Barbara is always at the frame's edge like a compressed note. She understands creation not only makes music, it also makes voids, and anyone shoved into that void never accepts it quietly. Dante sits before spreadsheets, his hands trembling in the silence of numbers that know how to testify, imagining an exit that narrows like a bottle's neck the longer he tries. Nicole smooths the fractures of her life with a new ruthlessness learned from pain itself, ready to leverage any collapse Leslie suffers to rebuild what remains. Yet a thin shimmer of empathy still flickers in her eyes, something she both hates and fears. And Leslie, a hunted animal pressed to the wall, realizes the only path forward is to strip off the skin of illusion and look at everyone's true face, including her own. When the lab's email appears, the world doesn't explode. It compresses to a single point. In that point, Leslie smells iron of blood, the must of old files, the rust of costume needles. Whatever the result says, she grasps a truth more frightening than any verdict. The greatest power is not in whose child she is, but in who she chooses to become from this second on. If Peaches is Barbara, Leslie can step into a drumbeat of reprisal, use wounds as percussion and burn every branch named Dupree, buying instant thrill and a future of procedures, penalties, and isolation. If Peaches is not Barbara, she can still wield the story as a media weapon, but then she will replicate the pattern of those who ruined her mother's life, bending truth to purpose. The third road is the cruelest and hardest to swallow. Accept the naked truth, dissect the trust, confront the dirty benefits, force Anita and Dante into the light with real records, and accept loss to claim what she never knew she needed. A moral footing strong enough to stand when the storm passes. Outside, the crowd still demands a spectacular fall. Hot takes on X scream conspiracy theories of faked death and resurrection. Spliced photos and clipped videos are pumped up as proof. But the real battle doesn't happen online. It moves, heavy and quiet, in a room where a woman opens a lab email and understands that every route from here is uphill, with no conveyor belt to carry her straight to victory. In that instant, her rage is no longer a flamethrower. It pools like subterranean lava, ready to crack its shell at the right time. She closes her eyes, breathes in the metallic scent of fate, and starts arranging her moves. Freeze any opaque disbursements to cut the strings binding her. Open a direct channel demanding Anita hand over the full trust records. Send legal notices to Dante to prevent data flight, and keep Peaches at a distance close enough to see clearly but far enough to avoid the pull. The campaigns of struggle will not stop, and everyone knows it. Anita will have to redefine atonement through action instead of smooth paperwork. Dante will have to choose between confession and one more act of destruction. Nicole must ask whether she wants punishment or healing, and Peaches, Barbara or not, will have to lay bare her true motive before the story devours her. As for Leslie, at the Vortex's heart, she finally learns that power is not in money, not in the surname attached to a given name, not in the crowd's verdict, but in accepting the loss of things that seemed indispensable to keep what no one can take. the right to rewrite how her story ends. And the moment she chooses to confront rather than hide, the wolves circling her hesitate, catching the scent of prey turning hunter, of a reckoning no longer built on lies but on the ruthless light of truth. A light bright enough to expose those who once carved the soul out of art, to burn down the velvet curtain that covered the articulate's shame, and to drive everyone into the same corner where each must judge who they are when there is no longer any beauty left to hide behind. Leslie racking up another win over the Duprees has infuriated fans. Many are eagerly awaiting her downfall, which could happen sooner rather than later. On X, one fan theory insists Peach's story still hides layers. Peaches scammed them because she's Barbara. I don't think Barb ever died. The post reads that Anita's past comes back to haunt her. Rumors that Barbara is alive have spread since her name resurfaced. Because Barbara blamed Anita for getting her kicked out of the articulates, it's no surprise she'd want revenge. And what better way than to use her own daughter, Leslie, to do it? Leslie has caused Anita and the Dupree family nothing but trouble. She not only destroyed Nicole's marriage, she's now cashing in on newfound wealth. However, if Peaches truly is Barbara, Leslie may have to kiss that money goodbye. With or without money, Leslie won't stop making the Duprees lives a living hell. Now, with Peaches, aka Barbara, the two of them will become a formidable force. If Anita thinks Leslie is a nuisance, just wait until she's staring down the return of her friend and bandmate, freshly back from the dead.